They go from religion to philosophy to science to mathematics to accounting to you name it.
Excellent. You're a Renaissance man.
And by the way, most of my library is actually in the Mississauga library. So my wife every now and then actually goes and donates a lot of these books to the library. So.
All right, Vijay. So we have the link for YouTube Live.
Okay.
Karan, you'll also be able to grab that.
Right, I'm here. I'm just grabbing it off. Should I grab it off the ICC's page?
Yes, if you can give me the exact URL, and then I'll send it to Mayank, and we'll put it everywhere.
Okay, 1 second.
Karan, that's a URL I texted it to you.
Oh, you did.
Or sorry, in the chat.
Vijay,
Okay.
Vijay, if on my Facebook page, should I just take the feed off ICCC?
You can take ICCC YouTube, yes.
ICCC YouTube. So I just share that from there.
That is correct.
Okay.
Everybody just share from ICCC YouTube.
I'll share the link in the chat here for everybody.
Okay, beautiful.
Thank you.
Hey, Vito.
Yeah.
This link is not opening the feed on my browser. Could you check? Could you check?
Yeah.
It does. I saw it right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's working for me.
Yeah, it worked for me too.
This link is not opening the feed.
Oh my goodness, we got a time warp going.
Somebody has the live stream in the background open. I think Vijay, you just might want to close it.
It's working. I checked it.
Yeah, your live stream is on in the background. So you're hearing Karan a second time.
Oh, sorry.
Somebody has the live stream in the background open. I think Vijay, you just might want to close it.
Yeah, I did close. Sorry, thanks.
Welcome, Galen. Okay. So we'll be starting in just a few minutes, I guess.
Vijay, would you need me to send the link to Mahindra to put it on?
Mayank, I sent it to
Mayank,
Mayank.
sorry,
You can send it to Mahindra as well, please. Yes.
Oh, no, no. I meant Mike. My apologies. You've sent it to him?
Yes, I did.
All right. Okay.
Okay, great.
So he should be able to put it up on the
I
Facebook.
think so. Let me just call and confirm once more.
All right. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Do we have an official showtime start, Chris, or how do you want to?
As soon as Vijay's ready to go.
Okay.
He's just doing it momentarily, so maybe a minute.
Okay, great.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hey, Mudit, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you? Sorry,
Good.
I'm late. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. And good, you changed your name there from Chris Carter. We do not need two Chris Carters running around the city. That will be changed.
Yeah, I updated it quickly there.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, I would encourage everyone, feel free to add an extension to your name. Like, I know you're going to be introduced, but
So let's all name ourselves Chris Carter.
can we have Galen just come on video to make sure his video is okay?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome, great.
You guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hey, Galen.
Great.
Galen, my friend, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, Mudit?
I know. I haven't. Oh my God, I haven't seen you in like 4 years or so, man. Last time was you and I cruising in your car, talking about pets.
Back in my old marketing app days.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. Things going well for you?
Things are okay, man. So far, so good. You know.
As much as it can be in a pandemic world, right?
Exactly. You know, I'm nothing to complain in life, so I'm always happy for that. So.
Well, we should take some time and get caught up at some point. Maybe
Of
grab
course, for sure.
a virtual drink or something over the holidays.
I'll love it. I'll love to do that. That'll be great.
All right. Let's do that.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining. It looks like we're ready to start or shortly. Vijay, I guess you'll just give the signal once it's been shared to the Facebook channel. And then Chris, you can start at any moment after that.
Yeah, just give me 30 seconds. The Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce should have it on the Facebook and LinkedIn. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's already on the LinkedIn.
It's ready to go?
Yeah, I think we're ready to go.
Perfect. Chris, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Unlocking Your Angel Investor Potential, a webinar of the Schulich School of Business. We're presenting here today in partnership with the Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce, and we have a star-studded panel, some interesting perspectives, many different ways that the people today come at angel investing, acquiring companies. There's a lot to learn, and we're going to have a lot of fun. I'm pleased to be joined today by my co-host for the session, Vijay Thomas, the founder and CEO of Tangentia. And Vijay, do you want to give yourself a quick introduction and a few words on behalf of the Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce?
Thank you, Chris. My name is Vijay Thomas, and some of you that have been joining a bunch of our webinars over the last couple of months must have seen me. But today we're going to a whole new audience. So this is Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce has been an organization that's been in the Indo-Canada corridor for the last 43 years. And this is the first time we're actually speaking to angel investment. And the hypothesis that we think there's a whole bunch of closet angel investors in the Indo-Canadian community that we want to bring out into the open. And for you to come out in the open, we think today is the day. You've got everybody that can on our panel today that can actually tell you how to go about doing this. And I think in the Indo-Canadian community, there's a lot of us that have aspirations. So, and that's, I think, what we wanted to do today. So thank you, Chris, for arranging and putting together this panel. And I think it's an honor and a privilege to meet a lot of you people on the panel. And we look forward to speaking with all of you.
Thank you, Vijay. And we are really excited to be partnered up with the Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce on this. It really sparked from our relationship on Together 2021, which is a big session coming up in January between Schulich and between Startup India. And we'll get into that later, but that's how we met. That's how we got together. And Vijay had this great idea. Let's start to talk to people about the opportunity for angel investing. And maybe, just maybe, when we get to the finals of that competition in January, we'll have a whole crew of ICCC members that'll show up for the championships, and maybe they'll see something that they're interested in investing in. Now, when we had the opportunity to reach out today and put this together, we had Vijay. We knew he was going to be on the panel, but we needed to put together this star-studded group that we talked about. And the first person that we reached out to was Jeffrey Potvin. I'm going to introduce him in a moment, but he'll be leading us through his keynote and then running the panels today. So we're excited to have him with us. Jeffrey from Open People Network. We also have Benton Long from the Archangel Fund, exciting new fund that's just recently been launched in the past year plus. We have Galen Udell from York Angels, a great partner for the Schulich community. We'll talk more about that. We have Arjun Jusuja, the founder and chairman at Sigma Group, and he's got a lot of interesting perspective in terms of what he's been working on in over many, many years in the space. Vijay, as we said, and then my friend Mudit Rawat, the chief revenue officer at Planet Corp, Schulich alumni, and very busy working with many startups in the ecosystem. So welcome to all of you, and we're going to have a great time together today. Welcome to everybody who's watching on YouTube on the stream, or is going to catch this afterwards in a recorded session. If you have any questions that you want to put in the comment sections on YouTube, we'll see if we can get to them and share them back in with the panel as we go along. So let's continue right along and come to introducing Jeffrey. As I said, Jeffrey is the first person that we reached out to in terms of setting the table for us today and talking to us about the angel landscape. Jeffrey is an active angel investor with more than 55 companies that he's invested in. He's with York Angels. He also is the founder of the Open People Network, a lifelong entrepreneur. Known him for many years. He's worked in the corporate community and the innovation community at places like Loblaw, Caboose. I think he and I first met at Loblaw many years ago when I was running my company. And he's also the CEO and founder of Hardboot Communications, a custom mobile web development shop. His work in the angel space and investing space spans the globe. He has many of his own interests happening in India right now. And so for a whole lot of reasons, we're really happy to welcome Jeffrey to set the table as our keynote today.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me today, guys. I guess community as well. I'm just going to share my screen. Can we see this good?
We're good.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for having me again. And I'm going to kind of give a quick walkthrough in the landscape of how I kind of look at the details and the facts that really bind and work inside of the Toronto Canadian ecosystem, which we're all interested to learn about today. So at Opiano Supporters Fund, we are bringing entrepreneurs, investors, sponsors, business leaders, strategic partners together to create a community of sharing, inclusion, collaboration that facilitates and supports the growth and financial success of all stakeholders. So what is the problem, if you will, that we're looking at? Well, companies struggle to access early stage growth capital. It's common, it's an unfortunate event, and we want to be able to see if we can overcome that today and in the future. And angel investment is the most vital stage in their path to building a viable and successful enterprise. So how does it look and what do the numbers tell us? In Canada, there are over 118 accelerators and incubators that really get together to help drive out those early stage companies. There are over 44 plus angel networks. There are over 252 investment banks that jump in to support companies. There are about 5,000 new startups created yearly. And if you take the numbers and break them down with in the closet or just open angel investors, we're probably looking at the number between 22 to 3,000 angels in Canada. On a global scale, where does Canada fit into this innovation space? And it's really exciting. Canada has 6 cities in the top 100 most innovative cities in the world, which is a new record for the nation's diverse startup ecosystem. Toronto's ecosystem as a whole is ranked as number 24, and Canada as a general country ranks 4th in the world for innovation and startup communities, behind Israel, UK, and the US. And there are a lot of dollars that are being pushed into Israel, UK, and US. So Canada has really done a lot to become where they are today. When you look at what those ecosystems make up, there are over 412 ecosystems in North America alone, and Canada has 29 of those. So in going through and researching this data, Startup Blink reported that Canada ranked 3rd in the world for COVID-19 innovation, and Toronto ranked 4th in the world globally for all the work that they've been doing throughout this pandemic. According to PitchBook, investors continue to make a lot of investments and commitments into venture capital funds, despite the challenges that we've been faced. But what does this do as a whole ecosystem for how angel investors work? Well, pre-COVID, it was being registered, according to Hockey Stick, about $1 billion every quarter was being invested into early stage companies. And you can see the numbers have changed dramatically, but they continue to make investments through the last 8 months of COVID. And then to put this into context around where the VCs fit into this is that, which is venture capital, which is the layer above angel investment, they continue to grow and make a lot of deals come through. And in 2019, they had a record 6.2 billion in Canadian dollars invested over 539 deals. Now there is some crossover between angels and VCs on how they register the data, but just to give you in context, the size of this asset class. And with growing numbers of dollars going into these spaces, they have put a lot more dollars with high percentage growth into clean tech and life sciences. And all of these are making a big difference in how Canada is interacting on the global stage for early stage companies. If you pull this back down to the early stage angel investors, on average, there are about 5,000 startups that are produced a year, where you're seeing about 400 of those being funded in a pre-seed and seed round stage. And then that number starts to escalate through all the other series of investment throughout. With strong support from all the government bodies, you can see to the left. So where does this put us, and how does this look for the companies that we want to invest or work with? Well, today in Canada, we're working with 75% of a male versus 25% of female founders. And why is this a significant statistic? Because I predict the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see the crossover of a 50-50 changeover of male biz female entrepreneurship. And why is this significant? Because in the past, this number has slowly started to grow. In the last 3 years, it has been doubling year over year. And we feel that female founders make a massive, massive change to this environment and really open up the risk factor for investors and everybody else to want to jump into this space because the playing fields are becoming so equal. It's amazing. So if you were to look at what are the reasons for these fails to occur in startups, if you will, there's two main ones that stand out. There's no market fit and they ran out of funding. And why do those two stand out the most? Because when it comes down to the whole reason why we're here today is we're talking about how angel investors need to get more involved, how angel investors need to find angel groups, be participating and helping early stage companies to open up that funnel. Well, this will show you again on how that funding breaks down. Most early stage companies are personally funded, bank loans, or they borrow money from friends and family. And again, that can go into notes, into other forms of investment. But you can see that from a crowdfunding and venture and angel funding side of things, that it is such a small fraction of where the dollars are coming to support early stage startup companies. And this is where we need to change that. So to give you an overview of the landscape and how the landscape is approached, there's many different sectors. And as we talked about earlier, you have different stages and you have accelerators, incubators, mentoring, coaches, and then angels and VCs. And here's just a simple chart of some of the different ways that this community is kind of put together. You have really early stage groupings from the Senecas, the Y Space, Fast Starts, Founders Institute, where they help early stage companies get off the ground. You have MVP launch, which is getting more into creative labs, Y Combinator, Techstars, where they're taken to that next stage. And then you're getting into funds and other events that help structure those companies and get them angel investment from the Archangel, Supporters Fund, Good News Ventures, and of course, this whole community around funding and angels is the next stage, which is stage 4. And this is where we have the 44 plus angel groups that have lots of members and a lot of people that want to sink their teeth into helping early stage companies get their feet into the space and start growing their company. So there is a bit of an angel process in how this works. And this is kind of more of a review to give everybody an idea of what they're getting into and why this is such an amazing space to be in. It's very simple. It's very clean. We can quickly walk through it, but I think in the panel, we'll dive into this a lot more. But what you can see is that it just starts by that startup reaching out to these angel groups, going through committees that are going to review the applicants to find what's going to better suit their groups. And then it goes into a larger screening committee. And inside of that screening committee, they then narrow down the applicants down to the best 3 to 5 companies. And then those companies get grooming, support, and help from the angels. And then those companies will then pitch and get in front of the larger investment community. And then they'll dive into the DD, which is really trying to do the due diligence and really understand what this makes this company tick, what are the valuable components to it, and how can this company grow and expand globally. And with that, all of these angels support and grow inside this process to help these companies. And as I mentioned, some of those layers all start through the bottom of this funnel where you have 5,000 startups, and all the way through they're interacting with incubators, accelerators, angel networks, all to get themselves to that MVP and to growing that company. And this is where we want to help drive more investment and get more angels involved because there are too many companies and not enough people supporting it. Consider this. Founders of previously successful businesses have a 30% chance of success. Within their next venture, founders who have failed at their prior business have a 20% chance of succeeding versus an 18% chance of success for first-time entrepreneurs. So we need to get and support as many first-time entrepreneurs as we can to move them through the system because the value comes in creating jobs and creating businesses that will grow, sell, and then replenish themselves by building a new company. So early stage asset class, which is pre-seed and seed round investments, and you can even consider Series A. These are massive and a huge need in the market. It's a big asset class. It's comparable to the VC markets. And angels are investing billions of dollars annually across Canada and North America to help feed this ecosystem. It's been proven that with an angel investor spending more than 20 hours in DD and working with these companies, that they can improve that startup's chances of success. Because of the disciplined approach to due diligence, they can help find and shift and grow that business in ways that that founder may not have been able to structure themselves. And with angels diving into the portfolios, it actually provides a lot faster and more constructive value proposition back to that early stage founder and founding team. Angel groups yield a 22% realized IRR compared to VCs and private equity. It is a massive, massive asset class that really needs to have a lot more attention from high net worth individuals and people that want to give back to the community. So why invest in startups, angel groups, or funds? Because it's a managed process. There's portfolio diversification. Returns and upside potential are massive. And investors are a way to help navigate through the startup ecosystem to get them into a VC funded opportunity. And with that comes high risk and high reward. So I want to thank you guys for having me today and allowing me to walk everybody through kind of the vision, if you will, of the Angel Network and what we're trying to do to help grow and build more successes in Canadian economy. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Jeffrey. Thanks for setting the stage for us. We appreciate that. So now I think everyone out there watching on YouTube today has a good, groundwork in terms of where we're coming from, why this is so compelling. And we're going to jump into the first panel. And we have two members on the first panel. As we said, I'm going to give them a slightly more extensive introduction than I did off the top. So first off, we're going to welcome Galen. And Galen is the executive director at York Angel Investors, an angel investor himself, and also the president of Novate Technologies, specializing in strategy, market development, sales operation consulting to technology startups. He has extensive C-level experience in sales, marketing strategy, and real global experience. We're happy to have him here today with us. And I'm also happy to welcome him and give him a personal shout out for being a great supporter of the Schulich startup community and the Schulich student community, as through our 4850 and 6960 and India in MBA internship program, those all being placement programs, the York Angels have taken in some amazing Schulich students, and we have a nice partnership going there. So welcome, Galen. And next up, it's my real pleasure to welcome Benton. And Benton and I are meeting for the first time, but I've heard so much about him over the years. I've been waiting to meet him, and I'm happy that this moment has brought us together. Benton is an angel investor and a key member in the Golden Triangle Angel Network, located in the Waterloo region, and he's also a general partner at Archangel, a new network of investors in Kitchener-Waterloo. And this year, as a response to COVID-19, Benton and Archangel launched an angel stage fund of $10 million. He served as an advisor to OCE and IAF. He's been a pitch coach to Team Canada at a major global competition where his teams did very, very well, came out at the top of the heap. And he also has held teaching and research positions in computer science at Berkeley and also at the University of Waterloo, which makes me think we need to get him more hanging out with Schulich. So welcome, Benton, welcome, Galen, and Jeffrey, over to you to have some fun with the first panel.
Awesome. Very excited. I'm a big fan of both of you guys, so this works out quite well. Okay, so, and I've had a few discussions, I think, with you guys in the past, so this will help things move forward a little clearer. So why don't we start by maybe just to give us some context, Benton, maybe give us a little bit of an idea of kind of what you're working on now and kind of maybe that experience. I know you've been working on investment world for the better part of 15 years. I think it's been more than that, but maybe give us a little bit of a background and understanding of kind of where you're at and what the fund's doing, all that good stuff, and then we'll go from there.
Excellent. Thank you, JP. By the way, that was an excellent introduction to angel investing that you ran us through. So thank you for that. So
it's a work in progress.
I've been an angel investor for about 11 years now. I became one when one of the companies that I had founded back in the 80s had an exit. We were acquired, and so I was lucky enough to have a nice capital return. And with that, I became an angel investor. Now, over the past 11 years, I've been faced with two problems on behalf of both myself and my colleagues. One is, as you alluded to, Jeffrey, there's just simply not enough risk capital in Canada compared to Israel, UK, and the US. And so for some of the companies that we've invested in as angels, in order for them to really scale to become global companies, what we need to do is to introduce them to larger pots of money beyond the angel stage. And so I've been working with both angel investors and funds in China to provide funding for companies to be able to help them become global companies, as well as to break into the large domestic Chinese market. What we've learned probably applies to India as well. And so I welcome exploring along those lines. So that's one of the problems that I've been tackling, Jeffrey. The other one is that for most angel investors, unless they happen to have a very large bank account, they can invest in anywhere between 2 to maybe 8 companies. This is what I see in many of the angel groups. If you don't invest in a larger, diversified portfolio, it's closer to gambling. There may be some big successes within the small portfolio that you have, but the chances of having really big successes grows as the size of your portfolio grows. And research that I've seen shows that the right size is about 30 or so companies that you invest in, smaller amounts in a larger portfolio. And then your chances of actually hitting the real winners increases. You know that, Jeffrey, because you've started your own fund, and now Archangel is doing this for angel investors. We have a particular fund called the Adrenaline Fund, which is a sidecar fund. If angel investors from various angel groups make an investment, what we will do with our capital in the fund is to come and match or fill out the round. And so it's really triggered by the work of angel investors within angel groups. These are smart, experienced people. They know what they're doing. There's professionalism in all of the groups. And so we're quite happy to invest alongside them and provide additional funds for the companies, and also to help angel investors who join us as LPs grow that diversified portfolio of 30 companies.
I love it. Yeah, that's great, and I love the approach with the sidecar and being able to match funds. That's a great way to work with angel groups and continue to flow that cash into early stage companies. Galen, we're going to turn it over to you to give us your background and kind of what you're up to right now, because you're doing some exciting things as well.
Sure, thanks, Jeffrey. And hopefully, I keep getting an internet poor signal here, so hopefully you're able to hear me. Okay, give me the thumbs up if you can hear me okay there. Did I fall off, or am I still there? Okay, perfect. So we're working, so similar to Benton, this is a reasonably new asset class. And so we're trying to make sure that we're putting a lot more rigor around the process. Within York Angels, we're trying to walk the walk in the sense of putting more technology into our infrastructure to make sure that we can analyze these companies better, bringing teams together. So we're making sure that our members can get more engaged in the process. We believe that that's how all of our members can learn more about startups, to be more engaged. We bring expertise from all different industries, and we're not experts in all of them. And we're seeing companies that are quite diverse. So we're seeing companies, everywhere from fintechs to insurtech to medtechs. And so we want our members who maybe have a finance background, in an insurance company, how can they take that over and maybe take some of those learnings into a different area or expand their knowledge and be able to help out founders, in maybe the industry they're in or in a different industry. And so our goal is to continue to try to drive that education for our members, help them understand, picking up on Benton's, topic of how to structure your portfolio. You need to take a portfolio approach to this, almost like an index model, right? If you just invest in a couple of startups, you're most likely not going to have a great outcome. But if you can build up a portfolio approach and start to, invest in 10 to 15 to 20 companies, the statistics show that you actually start to move toward better gains and better opportunity, lowering the overall risk of that portfolio. This is a highly risky portfolio process, but the gains can be tremendous. And so, 2 or 3 big wins really can outdo all of the other losses you have. And so we're trying to continue to educate our members on what that's all about and how to be more thoughtful about this process of coming into angel investing. And so I'm super happy when I hear our members talking about what they're getting out of the education and learning more about what this asset class is all about.
No, and that's great. So I think where you're kind of taking this to is that you're providing a lot of value add. And I think that's really needed in this asset class because there is a lot of new entrants that are coming into the space on a daily basis. There are people exploring, hey, I want to be an investor. I hear all these great things about being an angel investor, which is awesome. And we want more people to come into it. And I think you have to, if you're an investor or a potential investor, you have to think, can I give back? I want to give back. And I think that's kind of the key words to get you moving forward into this space. And then it's reaching out to angel groups or funds to say, how can you help me? How can I help you? And figure out what that value add is. And one of the things that you touched on, which I think is really kind of crucial to this stage where we're at in this conversation, is that I've got this portfolio, or I want to have a portfolio. I'm used to having portfolios when I invest online in stocks, but now I'm going to be doing something different. How do I shape this portfolio? What does that mean by being diversified? I have a friend that invested in 2 startups and they both failed, or I did and I refused to invest ever again. So how do I overcome this? And I think that that's a pretty common thing that's happened. And then a lot of angels exit and they never actually spend more time because they made 2 fails that they thought were bad and then they never go back. So Benton, on this portfolio side, what do you recommend as I'm a starting entrepreneur or I'm a starting investor, I'm coming into something new? What do you recommend? How do I start off? Do I go in and put a lot of money on A and hopefully start putting more on B, or how do I do this?
And that's a very good question, Jeffrey, because often I see the enthusiasm of new investors and they see all these shiny new baubles floating in front of them, new tech, nanotechnology, med tech. Oh, it's all very exciting. And my advice to them is slow down. It's going to take 5 to 8 years before you get a return. You don't want to blow your entire wad during year 1 or year 2. And so you've got to take a more measured approach. So that's one piece of advice that I give. The second one is that you can start to build that portfolio just simply by joining as an LP in one of these funds that we've been talking about. Archangel is one. Jeffrey, you have another one with a supporters fund, and we can help with growing your portfolio, because as an LP, you would invest something like 25 or 50K a year for a number of years, and in fact, get a piece of up to 30 companies or so during that period. It's a lot better approach than just simply investing largely in individual companies that catch your attention. So that's one thing. It doesn't preclude you as a member of an angel group from investing additionally in companies that have a strong attraction for you, where you might be able to use your background and experience to be able to help those companies. So that's the value that angels bring. So I would say it's twofold, Jeffrey. One, become an LP in a fund that will help build that portfolio to decrease the risk, and two, remain an active angel investor to invest additionally in those companies where you can add value.
No, I think that's great, and you're right. Those are the two ways to kind of get in there, and I think we could add a third one in. And I think this third one is that while you're trying to build a portfolio, it doesn't mean you have to invest, but you can come in as a board observer. You can start doing things that will help that company move forward and make you feel more comfortable when you're ready to make that investment, to slow it down, as you mentioned, Benton.
Right. And the people who are angel investors, the people who are successful enough to become accredited investors, they're smart, intelligent people with a rich background and a lot of expertise. And what we do as angel investors is that we put that expertise to work in order to help the entrepreneurs that we invest in, and sometimes even those that we don't invest in, right? We're just giving back to the ecosystem to make sure that Canadian companies succeed on the world stage.
I love it. And Galen, with all the work that you guys are doing at York, you've been really moving earth here and changing a lot of things on the way that the angel environment's been working within York. And you mentioned this earlier on how you're helping, and we just talked about board observers and different ways to get into there. How do you guys onboard that new investors so that they don't go out and spend on the first two companies they see? They're like, I'm in. And then after that, they're like, this is terrible. I can't help. I don't know what to do. So how do you kind of coach these new investors through, because you are seeing this quite a bit? How are you coaching them in and slowing them down and getting them the breath and getting them to see what the fundamentals are and understanding and learning from the other more senior people, I guess, if you will? How are you kind of making that all work to make everybody in the community feel comfortable?
Sure, that's very topical, because I just before this was on a networking session with some of our new members, and so let me just sort of lay the groundwork from angel investors versus angel groups. You can have individual angels, and they're kind of doing all the work on their own, right? So they'll find their deal flow and they'll have to do their due diligence. And being part of an angel group, you're an angel investor within there, but you're looking at the strength of the group. And so the job that we provide as York Angels to our members, who are all accredited investors, is that help with that. And so what we do is we suggest to new members to get involved, to stick their hand up and go into due diligence, whether they are and we don't encourage them to make investments right away. We want them, though, to start getting into the process, understanding what it's all about. Go and spend a little bit of time with some of your peers, go through that due diligence, understand how to go and start to dig into the companies. We're dealing with companies that have very little financials, right? So there's a lot of other esoteric elements we have to look at. Who are the founders? So you made the point on your deck about the success of the founders, how much that means toward the potential success of the organization. When we survey our members, the thing they're investing is really in the founder. But also looking at things of, how big is the market? How big is the problem that they're trying to solve? What is the technology behind what they're doing? Is it new? Is it original? Those are things you're going to learn through the due diligence process. You're not going to learn that from a 10-minute pitch and 15-minute Q&A session at an investment meeting. You'll learn that through going in and getting access into their due diligence room and then sitting on a deeper call with those founders. So we really do encourage our new members to get involved as early as they can. And that will then also allow them to understand the strengths of their other members. And so if they now start to build relationships with those other members to say, hey, you know what, Jeffrey, boy, that guy's a real expert on machine learning. And now when a machine learning opportunity comes through, if Jeffrey's sticking his hand up, I might be more interested in kind of jumping in and looking at that opportunity, because maybe he knows something more that I don't know. And so it's all that encouragement of as a group, we become stronger. We can now start to identify the better opportunities, the better startups, and then be able to apply our wisdom and our knowledge to become mentors, to then lead the due diligence, right? So go in and be a leader on that due diligence, especially if it's an area that you have strong domain expertise in, because now you might sit on the board for that company or become an advisor for that company. And that's really, to me, where you start to see the big smiles on the faces of the funders, is when they've now started to really engage with those startups, and they are getting so much more out of it than just investing, right? And so that's what we really try to do as an angel group, is to make sure that we're helping to bring those members along, so that in year 2 and 3, they become the mentors of the newer members that are coming in as well, to the investor group, because again, we're trying to help and educate people, especially as we see more people becoming accredited investors. It's that opportunity to educate them and bring them along. And that's a big focus of what we try to do as an angel group. And Benton can speak to that on, what he's been doing with G-Town. He's somebody that I looked up to when I came into this role, and actually as a founder myself, talked to Benton very early in the process to understand what angel groups were all about. And so, we as groups also share our best practices with each other, so we can bring the whole Toronto ecosystem up, and make sure that we're all performing at the same level, no matter where you go to within our ecosystem.
Brilliant. And how does, I think one question I got to pull out of this, well, there's lots, but the one I'm going to focus on is, what makes you accredited investor? Like, what do I have to do to get through this? Like, do I just go to my accountant and he says, you're good, kid, get in there, throw your money in? What do I have to do, and how does that process work?
So okay, go ahead, Galen, please.
Well, I was going to say, I could bring up the form, but there actually is a definition within Ontario for an accredited investor. There are multiple items that you need to either have, right? So over $1 million of investable assets. So these would be non-house related, right? So that's one of them. I think have made over $250,000 in your last 3 years, or a household income above a certain amount. So there are real definitions around what is defined as a accredited investor in Ontario. You can see that, I believe, on our website at yourknos.com, we have a link to that, so you can actually go in and see what it takes to be an accredited investor. Go ahead, Benton. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So I was going to basically say that same things that you just went through, Galen. So that the threshold that most of our members meet is that they have $1 million in financial assets. So it can include cash, savings accounts, checking accounts, basically liquid assets. It also includes stocks or equity that you hold as well.
So save your money up, kids. If we want to get this rolling, we better get everybody lined up now. So we'll see you guys all in 1 year. You better be investing. All right. So
if I may.
Yeah, jump right in. Jump right in.
So there are probably members of the audience who say, "Wow, I fit that definition. How do I get started?" And it's very simple. All the angel groups in Canada are very welcoming organizations. Come to a meeting. Ask Galen about the next York meeting. Ask myself about the next G10 or Equation Angels meeting. Come observe. When you step in the door, there's no commitment for you to become a member. There's no commitment for you to actually invest yet. Sit alongside someone who does invest and see what tips you can pick up. When I got started in 2009, I knew nothing about this space, Jeffrey. I sat along someone who did, and it was just like osmosis that took place. And you'll find that many of our members are very eager to share what they know. They're not in your face. They don't force it on you, but you just watch what they do, see, hear the questions that they ask, and then over a period of months, you get to understand exactly what the process is and what knowledge you need to acquire, and people will help. Both of our angel groups, Galen and mine, have many education events that help new investors. right? And our job is to make sure that you understand the risks, you understand what questions to ask, you understand both the upside and how you can increase your chances of getting a better return by applying your knowledge. So this is what we do, and we do this in order to make sure that the available capital in Canada is put to work in helping the next generation of entrepreneurs.
Hey, Jeffrey, now might be a good time to go to our YouTube audience because the questions are streaming in now and we've got a couple to go to. Good with you?
Yeah, perfect. Yep.
All right. The first question for our panel here is comes from Winton. He's an MBA at Schulich, just graduating, dreaming of one day making all that money and coming back as an angel. But for now, what he wants to know is what are a couple of the rewards or benefits of being an angel investor or being the networks beyond the capital return, beyond the financial side that you appreciate about being in this role?
I mean, Benton has a lot more experience at it than I do, but I'll quickly say, for me, it's spending time with some really brilliant entrepreneurs, people who are way smarter than I am, and being able to learn from them. I'm a lifelong learner, so continuing to learn from them. But the other is them being open to wanting to learn as well. And so, you know, you get the feeling of also being a bit of an instructor and helping them along. I don't have any kids, so these become my kids, right? Like I really do treat them like I would want to be treated, right? And so I just get that big piece of it. And most of our members who do invest, that's what they're getting out of as well. Go ahead, Benton.
So I learned a lot as a result of being an angel investor. I see these brilliant young entrepreneurs come before us with these fantastic ideas in sectors that I don't have generally a lot of previous experience in. And as they talk to me and as I talk to them, I get to learn enough to be able to ask semi-intelligent questions. I come from a background of mathematics and computer science, but during the 10 years that I've been an angel investor, I've learned about nanotechnology. I've learned about green energy on the back of 18-wheelers. I've learned about med tech devices. It keeps me young. It invigorates me. And as Galen says, I sit with some really smart people that I respect, and some of their wisdom and intelligence rubs off on me. And there are lawyers in the room, there are doctors in the room, there are accountants in the room, there are people who've been in retail sales in the room, the food industry. It's just a great bunch of people to be with. And what I didn't realize when I first became an angel investor is how much social capital we generate amongst ourselves. Mm-hmm. And we hang out together, we organize social events, we go to the bars, we talk about the deals. It's just a fantastic environment.
I think I would add in too that there's, Chris, you're on mute, but I would add in as well that, and this was kind of my next question for you guys, but it's a lot of I think when a new investor comes in, they want to know, how do I approach this business? How do I actually work with the founder? Do they care what I have to say other than just my money coming in? And I think to the points you guys are making is that it's a gradual process. It's, you know, a founder isn't just going to take to you and say, oh, okay, great, you put some money and now I'm going to listen to everything you say. It's a gradual dating process, and they're going to learn from you. You're going to show your ideas, and you start to find ways to connect with these founders, just as you find ways to connect with the other investors. But it's a learning process. And I think that there's, you guys both mentioned it, that it's a massive learning opportunity. There's a lot of smart people in the room, from pitching to investors to partners, all of the above. And it really makes for a nice dynamic setting to be able to really dive into a company and support them moving forward. And there's so many different ways to support them as well. So it's not just for money. There's a lot of other elements that feed into that.
Going to jump in there with one more for this group, then I'll save some of the other questions for the next panel coming up. This one's interesting, and I've been wondering about this one myself. What are some of the privileges or restrictions that a Canadian investor might need to think about when there's an overseas investment that they're interested in as an angel? And maybe on the flip side, if you have an answer for this one, if an overseas angel is looking to join an investment in Canada, are there any considerations about cross-border type deals or syndicates?
There are a few. There are more restrictions that you have to worry about. So if I invest in a U.S. company, I would not only have to abide by the regulations of the Ontario Security Commission, because I make my investment here in Ontario, but investing in a U.S. company, I also have to abide by the regulations of the SEC in the U.S. Now, for me, I'm familiar with both sets of regulations because I happen to be an American citizen living in Canada. But yes, it becomes somewhat more complicated. And legal counsel, either on your side or on the company's side, should be able to help with navigating some of those extra regulations.
To add into that, a lot of it comes down from governance to taxes. So you 100% want to engage with legal counsel, your accounting firm as well. We take funds from different investors. We have an investor from Egypt, one from Panama, but they all have different subsidiaries that work inside of the US or in Canada. So there's always different vehicles that people are looking for in order to capitalize on tax benefits or their cash flow and where it is. And those things have to come out through conversations with accountants or international accountants or even legal side. So there is ways to make all of that work. You just have to have those discussions.
And I'll just add one more piece, which is the startup visa program. So Canada is, we really do want to try to encourage really brilliant people from outside of Canada who are looking to relocate into Canada and build their startups here. There is the startup visa program. And so there are designated organizations, either incubators, angel groups, and VCs. So York Angels is one of the designated organizations that that a company can apply to for funding. And if they can get a $75,000 investment from York Angels, that would then start them on the process of getting their permanent resident visa in Canada and be able to build their company in Canada. And so we are looking to try to bring and grow companies within Canada. That really is our focus as York Angels. We have yet to make an investment outside of Canada. Like we would not invest in a company in the US or outside of Canada, but if they're coming into Canada, definitely we are very interested in wanting to work with those companies.
Perfect. So I guess that's the end for the questions then.
Yeah,
and
we're good.
We're good to go on that side. So we're going to bump into, go into our next panel. But before we do that, I'm just going to do a quick wrap up. Chris, does that work?
Yeah, that's perfect, Jeffrey.
Awesome. Well, first of all, I want to thank Benton and Galen for all of the comments and all the information you guys shared. It was brilliant. And just to kind of recap on that, I think the key to the start of the conversation is that there's just not enough risk capital going on right now in early stage investing. And in order for that to happen, we do look for and hope that we can bring in and attract more high net worth individuals or accredited investors, as we discussed, that would be able to come into this space to enable and help more of these companies that are looking to grow. And with that being said, as Benton alluded to, a great portfolio size is about 30 companies. But as Galen said, you need to be very diversified. You need to educate investors. You need to learn a bit about everything. So in order to be able to get into this space, you don't need to be running, use the crawl, walk, run scenario. So start off with that crawl, go into an angel group, go into a fund, learn a little bit about the process, meet some of the investors, ask a lot of questions. It's better to have more information than less. And then as you start to work your way through, you're going to start to find places that you feel better and more comfortable in making investment. So in saying that, working with startup investing is, I guess it's just like the dating scene. You're going to go out, you're going to meet some of the founders, you're going to learn what they're about, and you're going to decide if you can go into a long-term relationship with them and put some cash in or put some support in by helping them, but you're going to figure out what's the best approach and how you can operate and work within that company. But outside of that, lots of great notes as we always take. There we go. But I want to thank you guys for all of the valuable insights, and thank you again for chatting with us today.
Thanks, Jeffrey, and thanks to Benton and to Galen for serving as our first panel, which brings us to panel number 2. And I have to tell you, interesting people with incredible backgrounds, and it's so much fun for me. I love reading the bios because there's so much that's here, and in introducing our guests. So first up, we're going to welcome Arjun Andy Jusuja. He's the founder and chairman of Sigma Group of Companies. Sigma Group is a privately held company headquartered in Toronto, Canada, with a growing portfolio spanning diverse industries, including technology, marketing, real estate, hospitality, finance, and lending. He's a serial entrepreneur, building and acquiring companies, and has raised millions of dollars from a wide variety of groups, including Kleiner Perkins, Morgan Stanley, Redwood Ventures, Cisco. And I noted here, I was particularly interested that he began his career in information technology in 1975 at Tata Consultancy Services in India. And that is special to us, as Mr. Tata is on our advisory board in India for the Schulich School of Business. So I always love to see that. Quite the incredible gentleman. And I'm sure you had an adventure there when you started out with your career. Yeah, Andy holds a Master of Applied Science degree in Systems Design Engineering from the University of Waterloo and a BTech in Electronics Engineering from the Indian Institute of Technology. Welcome, Andy. Next, I'm going to introduce Mr. Vijay Thomas, who is also my co-host today, from Tangentia. And Tangentia is one of the 500 most profitable companies in Canada in 2019. 5,000 fastest growing in the US, a global player in artificial intelligence, e-commerce, digital solutions, and consulting. And the 2019 Technology Achievement Award from the Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce. And I like this part because this is how I started. He started the company from his condo downtown. I wasn't downtown, but I started my company from my apartment. So I respect anyone who starts out like that. So Vijay, welcome today. And we're excited to have you in this next piece of the panel.
I didn't have a garage to start it, so I had to be the condo.
Perfect. I always tell people when I started, I had 2 computers, my best friend, and a cat. That's it. Those were the assets. Next, I'm excited to welcome Mr. Mudit Rawat, and he's a great friend to the Schulich community. He's currently working as an investor, board director, and executive advisor at Planet Corp. He's a 2-times founder with 10 plus years of experience working in technology and retail, and a wide variety of experiences. He founded Nexus Commerce most recently in 2017, was then quickly acquired by Tompkins International in 2019. He was also the founder and CEO of Herbery, a personalized on-demand grocery and alcohol shopping service based in Toronto. And he's now an active angel investor, as well as working with Planet Corp on a variety of exciting initiatives. We're excited for some of his angel investing because it impacted on our Schulich startups community. This summer, he was one of the key investors in getting behind Swift, which is a company we're really excited out of Schulich startups. And most recently, as one of our alumni, he came back to speak and headline Schulich Startup Night 14 in the fall. Welcome to the 3 of you. And Jeffrey, I'll turn it over to you for the next panel.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Chris. Welcome, everybody. Very excited for our second panel. And because you guys, just as the 2 gentlemen before, really deep into the community side and building inside of the investment early stage area. And now I've got 3 investors across all different spectrums doing the same thing. So it's brilliant that we get the opportunity to chat. So maybe what we'll do is we'll start off with just a little bit of a background on kind of where you are today, just to kind of clear this up. And maybe we can start with Vijay, just to give us a little bit of an understanding of kind of where you're at right now and talk a little bit about your funding, your venture firm, and kind of what you guys are looking for to kind of set the stage.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Sitting here and listening to Galen and Benton in the first panel, I almost have begun to think that I don't know enough. Okay, I don't know enough about angel investing. Although I've been an angel investor, I've risked my capital, but I've done it all old school. I've done it myself. I've not, been part of any angel network. And I was like, what the hell was I doing? I should have got in touch with it. So, I have invested, but, a lot of it was, the friends network, the alumni network. And then, one thing led to another. And then, come a couple of years back, I actually started a venture capital, firm. And we've kind of invested in a bunch of companies. But, I truly believe that, we were not getting to the 30 as yet, but we're probably around 10. And philosophically, I have kind of tried to match new school angel investing with old school value investing. So it's almost like, an oxymoron. How can you have angel investing? Most people think of it as, invest in companies that are high growth. You've got to invest in the next Facebook, invest in the next, the next Google. But I've taken a different take on this. I'm investing for the long term. So companies that actually make profit, and then you grow that profit. It's a more longer term game, and that's where I've actually seen success. And we've invested in a wide variety of companies, including, and I started off investing in India, and for no particular reason except that I could at that point of time only write small checks, and those checks would go a longer way in India than in Canada or in North America. So for that only reason, I started off in India, and I probably wouldn't have made an accredited investor list at that point of time. But it is what it is. So and I as Benton mentioned, you get lucky once or twice, and then that kind of gets you going. So I think that's what happened to me as well. And I think we're now looking at investments in Canada as well.
Brilliant. I like it. And that's a great segue into how you took an opportunity and went after it. And it didn't matter the size. You figured out what market you could get into, and you started making investments. So that's a great story, and think very well for sharing that. Arjun, on your side, you've got a very vast background, and you're a builder. So I'm excited to hear kind of where you guys are at right now. I know we've chatted a bit about it, but maybe just to give us some landscape on kind of some of the great things that you've been up to with inside of Sigma Group.
JP, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Chris for giving me that beautiful and articulate and stunning introduction. I must admit that I learned a lot from JP today, and Benton and Gillen, about angel investing. So Sigma Group, as Chris did point out, is a family office with operating companies across multiple sectors such as software, technology, marketing, real estate, hospitality, financing, etc. I started as an entrepreneur about 30 years ago, early 90s. And by the way, for the entrepreneurs and investors, I must tell you that the world did not exist as it exists today. Although JP says that, by the way, in 2020, that we are not seeing the numbers as we did see in 2019. I do understand up to 2019, Canada was in a ramp up mode, but in the last few months, we have seen these numbers not live up to our expectations. Totally agree. But if I compare this to 30 years ago, the venture capital environment did not exist in Canada. So when I started Sigma Systems, and there came a time that my company was ready to go public. So until then, by the way, I funded it with my own funds. So I was fortunate enough to have worked in the Silicon Valley prior to that. So what I did, actually, I went and knocked the doors of some of my friends and some of my customers, and they introduced me to guess who? They introduced me to Forbes magazine publishes Midas 100. I'm sure you are all familiar with Midas 100. These are the 100 top deal makers in that year. So if you look at the Forbes magazine of 1999, Vinod Khosla was number one. Michael Grimes of Morgan Stanley was probably number two, number three, etc., etc. So what did I do? I was gutsy enough to go and knock on the doors of those four people. I said, I only want money from these names. So I go to Vinod Khosla, and as I said, I was lucky enough to be introduced to him. I don't think Kleiner Perkins those days was the world's most leading VC firm, period. Sequoia Capital was also did not have the same name as Kleiner did. Now the world has changed. Kleiner's ranking has gone down a little bit, and Sequoia is number one. So I was lucky at that point to, by the way, as I said, raise funding from these names. But most of the entrepreneurs in Canada could not really, the environment did not exist. Look at the environment right now, what Galen and what, by the way, Benton described. Honestly speaking, I am going to be signing up me and my family to these angel groups for one reason and one reason only. And that is to be with the people that are smart, that know what's going on. So investment for me in these groups will be a secondary objective. It will definitely be an objective. So big round of applause for Galen and Benton, by the way, to open my eyes to it. And I want to be very honest with you, like when somebody hears that you have raised money from Kleiner Perkins and Vinod Khosla was on your board and Orange Chair Sanjeev Ahuja was on your board. So Andy, you know everything about this. So I want to be publicly tell you that no, even though I have raised money from these people, millions of dollars over the years, and more recently from Birchall Capital and Dave Samuel in Canada, but I skipped this particular step of angel investing. So I'm going to subject my family, my kids through this route of angel investing, and I myself will be there to learn from all of you guys.
Andy, I was going to say, after which we should start our own angel fund, not angel group. I was thinking of names, the Maple Masala Fund.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So sorry, everybody else on this panel knows much more than me about angel investing. So if you want to know anything about angel investing, don't call me, call any one of these people and you will be further. However, having said that, in the Sigma family office, by the way, I have incubated, accelerated, operated, mentored, advised many companies over the years. Over the last 30 years, I have bought companies, I have sold companies, I have lost money in companies, I have built software products, and most of them have not seen the market, and some of them have seen the market globally. So if you want to talk to somebody who has been through it all, and I don't like to sound arrogant, by the way, who has seen all the pains of investing, entrepreneurship, etc., I'm the guy to talk to, and would love to talk to anybody that is listening to this webinar. If they want my advice, I'm freely available, free of cost, free of charge. I don't even want to invest in you unless you want me to invest in you or invest with you. So, JP, back to you, my friend.
Well, Arjun, I'm going to say that you're selling yourself short. You're actually a very smart man. You've accomplished a lot, and I would believe that everybody on this panel will wholeheartedly agree that we're excited and glad that you're going to take that step. If I had a microphone, it would be a microphone drop moment right now. That's how amazing that talk was. I'm like speechless. I don't even know what else to say anymore. I'm out of here, but that was great. Thank you very much for that. You shared a lot, and that was amazing. So to be an angel investor, you're already there, sir. You led the way 30 years ago. So great hustle. Love to hear that. Mute it. You're on. Now it's time to glory. Let's hear this because you've done a lot of great things yourself. So I'm excited.
Man, like I wish I was not going after Andy. I mean, how do you follow up after that? That's tough. I mean, kudos to all you guys. And you know, first of all, I mean, I feel really privileged to be in this accomplished company. I don't deserve to be here when I hear all this. And I'll tell you this interesting story about this. I actually know every single person in this. I don't think they actually remember who I am, except for maybe Andy. I've never got the privilege of meeting you, so I'm glad you're on the panel. But Benton was the person who was kind enough to put me in front of GTAN back in the day when I was doing rounds with my first startup. And he was kind enough, if I look into my emails, we'll find an email from him. He probably does not remember me. He sees too many startups. And he was kind enough to give us great feedback. Gillen and I, when this started, we were just exchanging a note saying, holy crap, we haven't seen each other in so long. I've known him, from, again, my first startup days, not pitching him, but just sharing ideas. He was building a cool startup. Vijay, actually, I got a chance to meet him last year in his office up in Yonge and Sheppard. Yonge and Sheppard with, my company had been acquired, and we have a common connection who was a sales rep. So, this life it's such a small community of people. You keep meeting them. So, again, I'm extremely privileged to be on this panel. I don't deserve to be, but I guess from an introduction standpoint, I've been an entrepreneur now for close to 7 years. I some success, some failure. Right now, I'm trying to do a little bit of angel investing. I'm not as sophisticated as some few guys, but I love the hustle of an entrepreneur. I love supporting them any way I can, be it through capital, be it through network. Anything I can do for them. We'll probably get into this a little bit as to how I kind of find the right company to invest in at the stage that I'm at. But outside that, from a professional standpoint, again, I was very lucky. One of my really good friends and mentors decided to start a holding company where they wanted to use to acquire the companies, and he wanted me to come and join them and help with a lot of the M&As and operations side of it. So that's what I'm up to now. My title is Chief Revenue Officer, but that's a misleading title, and it sounds too big. It's not that big. All I do is try to find great companies that may be interested in joining our vision and maybe make them part of our family. Hopefully one day we'll build the Sigma group. That's kind of the aspiration.
Well, it sounds like you guys are well on your way from all of the things that read and we've seen and chatted to. So kudos and congrats again on all of you for all of your successes and where you've come from. So one of the questions and we've all touched on this, and I think you just kind of touched on it, and maybe you want to dive into it first, which is when you are investing in a company, or you're doing an M&A, or you're selling, buying, and all of you have gone through this process, what is the criteria? Is there one or two things that you can denote that you really think stand out when you're observing and looking to invest in a company? What do you think is those 2 points that really, this is what I need to see?
Yeah, I can go first. I would not talk about M&As here because that's just a very different beast altogether, and very complex in the way the deals get structured. But from a pure angel investor, again, I'm a very early stage angel investor. I love what both Galen and Benton said. You only have so much capital to deploy. It's a very risky asset class. So I got to be cognizant of that. So I'm looking for two really big things. One, I have a personal theme around where retail is moving, and I like to invest in that ecosystem. I've kind of boxed myself. Of course, I sometimes go outside that box based on interesting opportunities, but that's really my core right now. Interesting technology companies within the retail ecosystem. And then the second side of it is, and I've talked about this in multiple times that Chris and I have talked about to Schulich entrepreneurs, is I love talking to entrepreneurs that have a balance of vision and execution. Too often I meet incredible people who think they can make the best Facebook, which is awesome, but they have no idea how to actually make it. And there's also enough incredible people, is the other side of it, which they kind of know how to do day to day, but don't have a grand vision. It's how do you find that either an entrepreneur or team that has the balance is kind of what I really look for. The rest kind of falls in place, right? I'm a small check, so it's a privilege to even be included in that conversation sometimes, and they allowing me to be on a cap table, right? We talk about Swift. I mean, holy crap, that was a competitive round. Just the fact that I could get in was a big deal. So that's kind of what my theory has been. At the stage that I'm at, it's so hard to, we talk about due diligence, but it is so hard to do intense due diligence. When I look at the M&A side, that's a very different due diligence thing that we do. It takes months to actually do a lot of those things properly. At the angel level that I'm at, I've kind of figured out that this is really risk capital, and I'll probably get zero at the end of the day. And if I get lucky, one of these will work out of the 30, hopefully, that I get to, and then that will be, the next DoorDash or Airbnb or whatever did the IPO yesterday. So that's kind of my thesis.
Oh, I love it. And those are two good areas that you're looking at, and the fine balance between those is vision and execution. It is tough. You're right. when you're starting off at that early stage, how can, the founders may not see themselves where they're going to be in 5 years or 10 for that matter. So I think being able to understand that you're getting into a visionary position or investing in that, I think that's brilliant. And of course, retail is a good spot. It's always moving and shaking, and there's a lot happening in that environment too. So great to hear that. Vijay, on your side, you guys have been investing. You're doing a lot of early stage investing in India, but now you're kind of diversifying across. What are the couple of things that you feel really stand out when you're looking at making those investments?
And I think I'll be honest, when Benton mentioned sidecar investments, right there, I was like, you know what? He's used the right term. I couldn't articulate that right, but that was the term. So most of my initial investments were sidecar to somebody else, a friend that was already investing, somebody that I thought was smarter, knew that space better, somebody who knew that founder better than I did, and I did sidecar. Okay, Benton, thank you very much for that term. I was a sidecar investor until I kind of found out my own investment philosophy. What do I believe in? What am I more comfortable with, right? And I think that's something that you've got to build yourself. It's the same as investing in stock. You got value investors, you got momentum investors, you got everybody, and then everybody wins. I mean, everybody wins. Everybody has their day, but you got to stick to what your philosophy is. And until you find your philosophy, being sidecar, I think, is not a bad thing, right? I mean, so you follow. In fact, even in investment, there is a whole group called Guru Investing. Guru Investing is a style of investing. You follow a couple of investment gurus, and you know what? Just follow what they're doing, and then most times you kind of be okay. So I think that's where I kind of did. Now I think we've got to a point where I'm bullish enough, or I'm gutsy enough to make those calls myself, and I think that's where we're doing some of those things. I've kind of come to my idea of this is where I want it to be, where I can make a difference as well. We're looking at angel and maybe a little more involved. So I've come up with my model of what works for my investment. So I think where people you'll take some time to get to that, or if not, I mean, you probably need to join an angel group, which I did not have the knowledge of, or did not have the opportunity to join. So I had to come up with this myself, and it's kind of worked out. But I will definitely, as Andy said, Andy, you and I will go to these groups together. I am going to come along with you.
Well, I like it. It's a good breakdown. And you're right. The sidecar way is a very quick way into investing. It's a good way to learn. Mm-hmm. Find the one that's the person that's the most influential and jump on board. And that's pretty common. It does happen a lot. And I think Judith said it perfectly, is that due diligence takes a lot of time. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of effort that goes into that. And if you really don't know what you're doing, then you really don't know what you're looking at. And I think this kind of goes back to Arjun and your experience and your philosophy in the companies that you've been buying, merging, selling into your business. You have a vision. So you have something that you're looking for in these companies. And it's just like angel investing, except for you're investing in your business and you're bringing these in together. Is there a couple things that stand out when you're making an investment or making a purchase or even a sale into the Sigma Group?
So JP, I'll be very honest with you. I'm not that smart and intelligent. So I'm very simplified. I'm a simple-minded person. So I look for 3 C's. And first C stands for the customer. That means I will invest in somebody or an idea where either the customer is there or customer would be there. Like basically, the market has to be there. The second C I look for is the character of the founder or the founding team. And what I mean by character has many things: commitment, conviction, how much is he committed to the idea and working. Third C will come to you as a surprise, is I look for cost consciousness in the founder. Why? Because as JP, you said, the number 2 reason for companies to fail is running out of money. Because if you have unlimited amount of money, I can make any idea sell. right? If you give me infinite amount of money, I will create bigger companies than Amazon and Google's and what have you. So cost consciousness, because we are dealing with limited funds, and therefore I want to see in the founder the cost consciousness that if he is going to be using my money, it should not be going in his pocket. It should be, I don't want him traveling in limousines, etc. I want him to be Ubering, preferably shared Uber. So that those are simply those 3 C's. I'm a quick decision maker because I don't think I have not learned how to do thorough due diligence on people. So if I like somebody, I like the idea, and I see that person is cost consciousness, they will have very good traction with me.
I love it. That's awesome. So three things to focus on. I just want to make sure I got these. Customer. Is it culture?
Call it whatever. Customer, character of the founding team.
Okay.
Very
and then
important.
Cost.
And then the cost consciousness. So 3 C's basically.
I like that.
And just to add to what Andy said, I think on our side as well, being frugal is one of our core values. So we wear it on our sleeve as well. I think it's probably a cultural thing as well, but frugality I think is something that I think I at most of the places we invest in, we definitely look for that as well.
JP, I will tell you my mentor and my first investor, Vinod Khosla. He was also the founder of Sun Microsystems. So this is the public information that he had, by the way, a corporate policy that his entire company would only use Bic pens. And I'm holding a Bic in my hand. I mean, this is not Bic. This is a Marriott, but I'm sure it's made by Bic. So I think I have held on to that particular principle. So in Sigma group of companies, as long as I was the CEO of the company, there was no business class travel, period. Whether the customer is paying for it or Sigma is paying for it, doesn't matter. Now, when I left the CEO position and became the chairman of the board, I'm sure I saw a lot of business class tickets actually happening at that point. But my principle was everybody will, if you are traveling at the expense of the company, it's going to be economy class. If you're taking a vacation, you can go in first class if you want.
I like it. Well, you know what? At the end of the day, there's a lot of learning that we can take from investors, CEOs, other management executives. We just got to listen. Put your ear down and listen to the things that they've done and read. There's a lot of books out there that can help. And like you said, you pulled out little nuggets along the way. I've got a few that I learned from Mr. Carter. And maybe one day I'll get to go on an episode and share all these little anecdotal things I learned over the years from him. Same with Benton and Galen and you guys. Man, this is great. Learned a ton. So we do have a couple questions that have come up from the audience. So I do have a bunch more, but I know we're limited on time, but you guys have done a phenomenal job. So I'm going to ask one quick question and then we'll grab a Chris Crescent. Is that cool?
That's cool.
All right. So now that you guys have figured out these types of companies you're working with, how do you get them to trust and believe in you? You've made this investment. How do you get them to work with you? I think this is crucial because if I'm going to go all the way out and make an investment into a company, I'm a first-time angel investor, I'm excited for what I'm doing. How do I, even if I'm doing a sidecar, how do I get them to want to talk with me or work with me? What kind of things do you see where that value exchange is there? How do I get that moving and those balls rolling forward? Vijay, you want to take it?
Yeah, I can take that. And I think, that's something that, there's a continuum where you're passive at one part of the continuum and you're active at one part of the continuum, right? I mean, there's no right and wrong here. You don't need to be active in every investment, right? If you're sidecar, my approach on most of the sidecar investments were let the guys who know more be the active guys. I tried once or twice and through sheer, learning, I learned from my own mistakes. I'm like, you know what? I don't have the time for this. There's a lot of cadence. There's a lot of calls. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen. Then you come up with your own formula. I want to be on a quarterly call. I want to be on an annual call. I don't want to be on the monthly call. Okay, so there may be some of the more recent investments where we're also putting, writing bigger checks and have a larger chunk of the company. You're probably on weekly calls, right? You're getting more and more. So I think there is no single formula, but I think it depends on how much skin you have in the game, how much you've got invested, how much you can move the needle. I think those are things that you will begin to realize very soon. I would not recommend some place where you really are a very, very tiny investor and trying to do too much. Again, this could be wrong. Maybe I will learn better when I join the angel network. These are things that I learned on my own. But this is I kind of came up to some of these things myself. And by the way, Chris, I've invested in some companies where Ratan Tata was also an angel investor. So I try to wear that with a little bit of street cred. So I got some street cred of being side-by-side investor with Ratan Tata.
I love it.
Can I say something? I want to say something to Chris. Chris, when you introduced me that I work for Tata Group and Mr. Ratan Tata is on your board or something like that.
Yes.
So just I want to let you know that I was hired from University of Waterloo by none other than the father of Indian computing, Mr. Fakir Chand Kohli. He's called FCK. He actually died just 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And every time he came to Canada, I hosted him for a dinner. But FCK has done for India, I think he's a bigger name than even Ratan Tata, to be very honest with you. And even Mr. Tata will agree with me. He put India on the IT map of the world, by the way. So what a legend, total legend. And once again, such a simple man that when he would come to Canada, he would not even take the taxi. He would expect one of the TCS employees to pick him up from the airport. And I hope TCS people are listening to this and they will vouch with me.
Love it.
Can I also, JP, can I also address, you said as an investor, how should you engage? So first of all, with entrepreneur and investor, it's a two-way street. And second thing, once you have chosen an entrepreneur to invest in him, you have to give them a free hand for the most part. Your role as an investor should be that of an advisor, not that of a controller. So you have to be very careful that you do not come across as saying, I want to control you. You have to come across saying, I want to assist you. I want to serve you. I want to help you where you need my help. Let them drive the car. You have given the car to them to drive it. Let them drive it. You sit you just have to watch them do it. Okay, that's just.
No, well said. I totally agree with that. And to me, it's about supporting, and you really are there as a support factor. So you're there to be an ear. But I still think that there's a way for you to kind of get in with that group or get in with the CEO so that they trust you. And I think, Judith, you want to jump on this?
Yeah. Let me give you my take on this again, because I always think about this as, first of all, again, it's a privilege that anybody allows you to invest in their company. You have to, as an angel investor, consider that as a privilege. This is not here's my money. It's not about that. If you're a good entrepreneur, you can raise money from millions of people. The good entrepreneurs are not looking for investors. The investors are looking for them. Right? So it's a privilege. You got to understand that it's always a privilege. And if they're giving you a privilege, at least, again, I'm talking about a very specific angel group, which is putting the 5 to 25K check size, kind of the average realm of things for angel investors, is your check technically is worth not a lot of money to them, because these folks will go and raise 5, 10, 20, $100 million. Your check size will be like, nobody cares about it. So that means that you have to always punch above your weight class. Why will an entrepreneur call you at 3 a.m. at night versus the VC partner that just gave them a beautiful check? That's what you got to think about as an angel investor, right? So that's what makes me the most proud about a lot of companies that I invest in. I'm their friend. It's like, hey man, like, did you mess up? I want you to call me when you messed up, not when you've got the most amazing customer success story, because I invested in you because I believe in you. But I want you to trust me enough to call me in your darkest times. That's the kind of philosophy that I have on this. Now, having said that, I can't get the relationship with everyone. It's impossible, because sometimes you got to get to the chemistry. I've tried that with most. I'll give you a very specific example, actually, of a company. It's called Scener. They're based out of Seattle. They're based out of Seattle. I think Netflix can be one of their biggest customers. I got in that through a syndicate, and my check size, again, there is a very big round. My check size was not even a drop in that bucket. I just emailed both the founders and I said, hey man, like, I just had a conversation with the corp dev of Netflix. And I think there's something interesting here. Here's what I learned. I hope this is useful. And that's how you kind of start building that relationship with them. And immediately within 5 minutes, the reply came back, man, thank you so much. And now you're in that gang, right? You're in the clique. They can call on you. And that's how I kind of do it. Especially if you're like trying to invest across, right? GTA is a community, but if you're trying to invest across North America and if you can't see them all the time, especially through syndicates, how do you do that? On the syndicate side, I'm not part of these two, and I love to find a way to get to the two groups we talk about. I use AngelList a lot. I'm on Jason Kalanick as a syndicate, who's one of the leading angel investors. I always try to find a way to get in front of the entrepreneur, not as, hey, I've got 10 questions for you. It's more like, I'm interested in investing. I've done my due diligence. How can I help? It's always like that. And sometimes they don't need help. And sometimes they do. And most of the time, entrepreneurs who are raising money need help in finding great talent, or they have problems that they're trying to solve and they don't have the answer for it. And it could be very simple problems that you have faced. And if you can solve those two things for them, help them accelerate their product roadmap, they will trust you. And that's kind of how I built it. But also as an angel investor, just be ready for the fact that once they start raising a lot of money, they'll probably forget about you. And maybe then you'll get one investor update, and that's okay. You got to live with that.
JP, if I may just add to that, I mean, I'm sorry, I probably misread your question, but yes, absolutely. I think empathy is a big one. If you empathize with them, one of our recent investments was in a made in Canada apparel company, and they got an order from Health Canada to make gowns, and they had to ship this the next day morning, and they were short. So they called me in the night, and I went to the shop floor in the morning, and we got that shipment going through. So I'm a mechanical engineer by training. So I knew a little bit about production and stuff like that. So we got that going early in the morning. By 9 o'clock, the truck came and we delivered, right? So that was the first big delivery, and that happened. So the fact that I was able to help brought the confidence in them as well. And the next time onwards, I just asked on one day before delivery, do you need help? And they said, no, we've got it this time, right? But they knew that you've got their back. And then sometimes when I really cannot help as well, empathy does help. You're like, just hang in there, this will pass, just hang in there. I think that's most times as well, they're looking for a reassuring word, and the way I look at this is, you can shout and scream and talk about the numbers. Most times shouting and screaming doesn't really help. It does, maybe get a little bit of more, get people to get, a little more serious about stuff, but it really does not going to make a difference. So I think empathy does really help a little bit, more than shouting and screaming. So in that sense, I think the fact that if you've got multiple other people with bigger size checks, the VCs, they're sometimes a little more, more numbers driven. And I think, as Mudit said, if you bring that empathy to the table, you're definitely adding value to the business as well.
Well said. No, all of you guys, brilliant. Chris, do we have time for that one question, or do we leave it in the Q&A?
No, what I'm going to tell you, Jeffrey, is what's really interesting is that this last outpouring of expression of ideas and emotion and passion that came out of the panel here ticked off all three of the next questions I was going to ask. So it's just like a perfect way to bring us to the wrap up. So thank you to everyone who's been here, and thank you for everything you brought to the table. We're going to do a little bit of a close, talk about what brought us together, and then we'll wrap up. So Vito, if you could bring us along with the next piece of the presentation, that would be great.
I just want to do one little wrap up, if that's cool, just to kind of refocus around all the things that we talked about, if that's all right, if that's good.
Absolutely. Do that now, and then I'll go into the end.
Perfect. So I just want to say thank you very much, guys. You were phenomenal. I think we could have had this panel go for at least another hour, just like we could have with the first panel. So we probably could have made this a full day. So Chris, maybe we think about that next time. Just kidding. But it was really good. Honestly, what I liked about the discussion is that, one, we brought up that sidecar piece, but it really focused in on vision and execution. When you're looking at building this portfolio, have a philosophy, have a theme, have a direction you're going after. It's going to help you a lot in when you're trying to make an investment or at least start. It doesn't have to be the only thing you know in the world, so you just stick to that, but start to learn and educate yourself and find an area where you think, if it's, I'm only going to invest up to 10 million in a valuation, I won't go higher. That's part of that structure. So just find that structure and then start to fill it with companies that you think really fit where you want to go. I love the fact that you guys talked about it, which was, you're going to have skin in the game. You're going to move the needle. You're going to want to get into founders that are doing this and figure out how you can help them solve problems. Because it's not just about throwing money into something. It's about rolling your sleeves up. It's exactly going on that production floor and helping out when they need that help. Because you know what? In 5 years from now, that company is going to be massive. And they're going to laugh at the time when you went in your shorts in the middle of winter to help them out. So those are the things that are going to make a difference. And I love the line, it's a privilege to invest. I think that really denotes the entirety of what we talked about, is that take the respect that you're investing in this company, that they're allowing you in, and do what you can to help them grow. I'm a big startup fan, and I've always say, reach out and help a startup. People probably thought I was nuts 10, 20 years ago when I was doing this at Loblaws and everywhere else, but it really makes a difference in helping these companies get a leg up. And if that's a one intro, or it's one sale, or it's a small check, all of those things help. So gentlemen, next one, we're going to get way more women in this, but outside of that, you guys were all awesome, and I'm glad I was part of it. So thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jeffrey. And I'm just going to add my quick thought to this, and then ask the group here to stay with us just for one last moment while we wrap up and talk about some of the inspiration behind it. So first of all, what I want to tell you is that my team, or some of the leaders at Schulich, will tell you that when we started out on building the Schulich startup community a couple of years ago, one of the dreams, one of the things that I put out there as like a manifestation that I was looking for, was that we would create a community that had enough vibrancy and electricity and fun around it, and inspiration, that it would draw amazing people who may or may not have had anything to do with Schulich in their lives into the events, into the conversations that we were doing. But then not only would the education come for the students and the alumni in our community, but that those people would start to come together and have these amazing collisions and connections and build new friendships through coming into the community that would go back out and create other things. And so I've been, had different dreams. One of my dreams was that there would be like an investor who would invest in a Schulich startup when they showed up to Schulich Startup Night. It was an alumni, and I had and they've been coming true. And today, this was one of those moments, because I wanted to have a moment where a group of people all came together and some really amazing new connections formed. And so when we had that mic drop moment, Jeffrey, talking about people like teaming up together or joining up together, I really appreciated seeing that happen. So thank you to all of you for helping make that energy that brought us to that point today. Well, the thing I wanted to wrap up and talk to you about is Together 2021 for the group here, and also for everybody involved. I talked about Mr. Tata being on our advisory board. It was last November, a year ago, that I flew to India with the then Dean, now Dean Emeritus Horvath, to meet with our advisory board and to meet with our students in Hyderabad at our campus. And when I met with Mr. Tata, I talked about the possibilities of connecting in a deeper way the two ecosystems, the innovation ecosystem in Toronto and India, and how Schulich could help facilitate that. When the presentation was over, he walked up and he said to me, "Great presentation, keep going." Just those two sentences. And then he headed off with the dean and did his thing. But, he has such a calm charisma and an energy that is like, incredible. And it just lit me up and made me want to do more and do something exciting. When the pandemic happened, then we started working right away on how could we help our students in India by getting them placements remotely, because in the Zoom world, There, you didn't have to be in Toronto anymore to do your placement, right? Before, people wanted to meet you and have a coffee with you and sit down somewhere in a cafe. But now we could line up all these students to have placements with founders all throughout our community. And we got, within 30 days of the pandemic, we had 30 of our students from India all placed with founders to work together. Well, we're fortunate enough that through this work and our community rallying in this way, this attracted the attention of the government of India and Startup India. And in the summer, they reached out and they proposed to us the idea that we would do something even bigger together, and that in January, we would do an entrepreneurial boot camp and venture competition to bring together students, 100 students from India, with their ideas and their startup inspirations, together with 150 students from Schulich and York University, from Lassonde, from the engineering school. And together they would work on these ideas through the competition. And then they would go in front of some of the top investors and unicorn founders in India to look at their ideas and get behind them. And so we started to reach out then to other groups, and we reached out to people like Vijay and ICCC and got involved. And this is how this started to happen. So we'll continue along through the presentation, talk about what happened next. So we've got this happening for January 4th, 10th. Fido, you can continue. And we decided we would focus on some very specific sectors. So we've briefed the students on these different sectors, and we've asked them to look at challenge statements. And some of them have already been working on these startups over the last year. Some of them have new ideas. And we asked them to look at these sectors of national importance in collaboration with the government of India. And we said, in addition to that, we want to really look at self-reliability for India. So these startup companies we're helping our students from Schulich and from York University are working on, but they're to be owned by the students in India for the benefit and the good of India. They each have to have a lens on how sustainability matters to the business. It doesn't have to be the core of the business, but it has to be something that they reflect on in terms of what it means to be sustainable. And then they have to also reflect on what is the social purpose, the deeper mission of the company to do good within the community. So we'll continue on, Vito. So our partner in this is Startup India, which is the largest organization working in the startup ecosystem in India, and they've been fantastic to work with. We've teamed up, put this all together. And these are some of the partners that we brought on board that are helping us, that are supporting us through the process to get going. And we're putting together now the championship round when the top companies compete, which will be on January 10th, live online. We have some of the top investors in India that are going to be sitting with them, that have promised them private interviews for all the top 10 companies to sit down and walk through their companies in detail. We have $50,000 of prizing that we've raised and put forward to help to support some of the companies, top 3 companies as they get going. And then we've lined up with T-Hub in Hyderabad to take many of them into their incubation programs as well. So what we're looking for as well, as you talk to your networks and as you look out through the ICCC membership, we're looking for people who are inspired to help out. We're looking to take our prize funding that we have up another notch by the time we get to January 4th, or any companies that are interested in sponsoring a team, sponsoring one of those sectors that I mentioned that are particularly inspired, or also people might be interested in mentoring in the program as well too. One of the pieces that we put together here, and this is like really exciting to me because I've already told you my passion for connecting people together, is that we've recruited 50 mentors from Canada and 50 mentors from India. And every one of the student teams gets an Indian mentor and a Canadian mentor to work together with them through the boot camp. And not only is the vision for them to work with the companies, the vision is for each of those new friendships that gets formed between the two mentors to lead to other things, other possibilities, other connections. It won't happen with every pair, but if 10 of the pairs, 15 of the pairs of the 50 connect in a really exciting way, it's going to lead to some stories that like 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now will be really interesting in terms of how they met through the competition. So if you'd be interested in helping us out, I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. You can find me, Chris Carter, the Executive Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship for the Schulich School of Business, and a lifelong entrepreneur. And you can also reach out to Vijay Thomas, who's been our amazing partner in helping put this together, not only today, but supporting us and putting Together 2021. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us. Thanks again to the panel. We had a great time. I hope you'll be involved in more Schulich events in the future. And if you have any questions about Together 2021, please give me a shout. Thanks, Jeffrey. Thanks, panel. We'll see everyone soon.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.